like to welcome everybody to another ATC Network Special Edition podcast. I'm your host, Scott Jones. I want to thank everybody for joining us here today and remind you that if you like this show, please make sure that you join our network, the ATC Network on YouTube, and become a member, subscribe, and hit the reminder so that you'll know when our other shows are coming up. For now, I got a friend of mine here who I've known for about a year and a half now or so, and we work in the industry together. Joe Fiorello. Joe, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Did I say it right? Fiorello?
Fiorello, you got it on the first try.
Yeah, well, it's a Jersey thing. We know how to say Italian names.
Yeah.
If you don't, you get shot.
Right.
Yeah, but Joe, you work with Advanced Recovery Systems.
Yes, I do. Very happy to work there. Very proud to work there.
Now, just give us a background. Is it just it's certainly addiction treatment.
Mm-hmm.
One place, many places, big, small. What's their deal?
Well, they're a behavioral health company that focuses on addiction and dual diagnosis. But we have a lot of specialty programs. So we have like 11 now nationally. They're all pretty fair sized, between 50 and 100 beds.
Okay.
But some with very specific care, like the International Association of Firefighters Center for Excellence. That's IFF firefighters only, so that's only 56 beds.
So that's Advanced Recovery Systems. It's a treatment center for Advanced Recovery System, but it's just for the first responders.
Just for the IFF.
Just for firefighters.
Not even, yeah, just firefighters. IFF, yes.
Wow.
And then we have another program that is for all first responders called Fortitude in Columbus. So
that's where you get into the police, things like
EMT,
that.
emergency room nurses.
How about military and veterans? Do you have any programming for them, or does that go into the first responder track?
Not specifically, but we have some plans in the future this year that we're going to start doing some stuff with veterans.
It's very important.
Yeah.
We know the VA system is overtaxed, and they're not doing we could all say it. They're not doing a very good job,
right.
And our veterans should be our most honored people in our society. Absolutely. And the truth is, they are some of the most overlooked.
Yeah, I agree. My sponsor, Dave DiOrio, some people from South Florida, Palm Beach County will remember who he is.
Okay,
was a veteran, and actually, I was there on Christmas doing the wreaths at the Veteran Cemetery, so I went to visit him and. Excellent. Put the wreaths out, so I definitely have some uncles that were Army and things like that. I was going to be a Marine. I had a date for Paris Island, but my addiction kind of derailed me from that launch to Paris Island.
Well, it was actually, the funny thing is that was also my path, was wanting to be a Marine, but I had some physical things that wouldn't allow me to do it. I got a grandfather who was military.
Mm-hmm.
He was in the Army. He fought with Patton.
Wow.
In the 43rd Cavalry. And then my brother was Navy, and my son was a Marine. So, definitely got it running through our family and stuff. But
I did my test. I was with the recruiters. I had my date. I was like September 19th, I think 1995 was I supposed to go. And
your addiction
kind of got me in some trouble, and there wasn't really a need back then. It was before.
So they weren't just taking anybody. They
right,
were being a little more.
And I'll never forget, Sergeant Rosario. He said,
do you think that actually drove your addiction a little bit deeper? Did he, or were you just off to the races right from the beginning anyway?
You were already
in trouble.
I thought maybe, for me, it seemed like I did believe in defending our country if it came to that, but they had I was building race cars as a teenager and into mechanics, and was going to go into the mechanic program and do all of that. And my dad supported that. And he's like, go do that. When you get out, we'll open an auto shop or something. There was all these different talks and plans, and it was a good idea, except I couldn't stop drinking and doing drugs. So
wow,
I was going in on juvenile waivers, and then had a DUI, and then got busted with some pot. And back then in '94, you get busted with pot, forget it. They want to put you in federal prison, just for pot.
Yeah,
it was tough back then. So
part of that war on drugs thing. Everybody goes to prison.
It was. They wanted to throw the book for stuff like that. So
Yeah.
they said, well, get some of your legal stuff taken care of. And I did, which wound me up in treatment a couple times and never circled back that way. But I think it all kind of worked out.
Well, I'm pleased that the Advanced Recovery System is looking at
Mhm.
that as something to do. Although they do handle a lot already. You're doing the first responder stuff,
Mhm.
doing the stuff for the firefighters,
Mhm.
and with a focus on mental health. So many of your places, I would assume, have ACA licenses.
Well, only the IFF Center does. So
Oh, okay.
that's the
All right.
only
Okay.
facility where we do any primary mental health because we know that that's a population that needs that care.
Absolutely.
So our other civilian programs are dual, but not anything primary mental health. We very much
Gotcha.
stay in our lane when it comes to the adult civilians and, work with addiction, substance abuse disorder. And,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's good that you understand that, we're going to put our focus here because
Yes.
that's where it's needed.
Yep.
So you've been with them for 8 years.
8
See, now that's
years.
a lifetime in this industry. Spending more than 5 years with anybody,
Right?
it's kind of like you're you're ready for retirement. 8 years, so you must really believe in what you do.
I do. And my journey took me to where I'm at today. And I know we've talked about that, previously a little bit, even before this podcast, the history of treatment in South Florida. And, luckily I was always surrounded by very good people that, taught me the right things. And
So you've been down here and essentially in the system, either as a client or
yes.
working in the system or something for the past 26 years.
Yes.
So you've seen a lot of changes.
Absolutely.
Because everybody knows we could point out now, we can say everybody can look back and say, yeah, between 10 and 15 years ago, Florida blew up as becoming the bad guys in the treatment world and all these bad things because there was so many treatment centers and IOPs and PHPs and halfway houses and sober livings, and that there was bound to be some dirty players that came in. Did you see that? I mean, it wasn't like that when you first got here.
No. It was a whole nother world. Delray. I got sober in Delray Beach.
Right.
I went to treatment number 3 and 4 there, which were both at Renaissance before they were part of Karen Foundation.
Okay.
So
all
they
right.
were just Renaissance. They were small, like 35 beds.
But even then, they still had a history of time. They'd
Yeah,
been around for a little while.
Yep. I remember, never forget. I was in Arms Acres in upstate New York for my second treatment, and they said, well, you need to not go back to New Jersey. And they said, you can go to Minnesota or you could go to Florida. There wasn't a hard choice.
What time of year was it?
It was May.
Oh, okay.
So it wasn't so bad.
It wasn't,
but as
in
growing
January,
up,
February, that's like that.
Listen, I'll just tell you where my mind was at. I was 18 years old sitting in treatment.
Yeah.
I knew I still had cocaine stashed at my mom's house, and I loved Miami Vice.
There you go.
It was not a hard choice at all. I said, wherever Florida send me, let's go.
All right.
So my motivation wasn't like, yeah, I can't wait to go to that wonderful program. It was like, get me to Florida. There's a lot of cocaine there.
So you ended up coming down here and eventually finding your way to sobriety.
Yes. Yep. I got to say, when back then, the community, even the treatment community, the AA, NA community, it was smaller. So people really watched after you. It wasn't, didn't matter how many times you messed up. When they said, keep coming back, they meant it.
Yeah.
They loved you back to health. They believed in that. They held their line as far as what the program was. But even the treatment, even Karen, not Karen Renaissance at the time, I still call him Karen now because I'm used to it. They were very tough. Anybody who knows them knows they were tough.
Yeah, yeah.
But I needed that. But they brought you back to where, okay, you can do this. You need to do this. And here's how you do it. And I got kicked out of there the first time because I got high, got into a fight with somebody.
Right.
Spent like about 4 weeks in a halfway house where I was just kind of malingering around Delray and put 4 or 5 days together and then pick up another white chip. And, but The people, it was like even the treatment center and the people in A, they're like, hey, look, that's a guy that we put out there, we're hoping he makes a decision to become willing again. And for me, that came way of a Baker Act, which we didn't have that in New Jersey. But yeah, my last drink was in Delray, got Baker Acted, and honestly, I had nowhere to go. I called the lady who referred me from my dad's union, and she's like, hey, how you doing? She thought I was calling to say hello. And I said, I don't know, I'm in some hospital somewhere. And she asked me what happened.
Wow.
I told her, and she said, don't go anywhere. She called me back 20 minutes later and said, that place is coming to pick you up. Don't mess up. But at that point, I had like the best way I could describe it, I had almost like a spiritual awakening when I got Baker Acted, because they strapped me to the bed in Bethesda East Hospital. But the reason why, funny enough, there was a guy in AA who lived next to Central House.
Mm-hmm.
The guy gave me a key to his house. He was the treasurer of the meeting. He had all this cash in his house, but he said, listen, if you're hungry during the day, go grab a sandwich. And I was like, this guy's got to know, like, I like to steal. I like to steal.
Yeah, what the hell's wrong with this guy?
Right?
Right,
But I never stole from him because he just treated me with respect, and he just always helped me.
Right.
And when I had that moment in the hospital, I was trying to, I was like, back to, you got to remember, no cell phones, computers, internet. Yeah. We're prehistoric days.
Right.
And I just remembered, if you dial 9 on a phone at a hospital, you can get an outside line. So I kept trying to use the phone, and they were telling me not to use the phone. I got belligerent with the nurses and then security. But anyway, I just told this nurse, I said, look, there's this guy, Steve. He lives next to this place. I got to talk to him. I'm wasted. And I don't know, she was in AA, she got Steve on the phone. I cried on the phone, and he said, are you done yet? And I said, yes. But it was the first time that I said it and knew that I really meant it. And I believe that moment I was given the gift of willingness, and that's all I was given. And I walked back into treatment, and I didn't say I'm going to stay sober. I just said, all right, I'm going to do the best I can do.
Yeah.
And 90 days, if it doesn't work, I'm going to kill myself. Now, my first hospitalization ever was because of a suicide attempt. I was in a coma for 3 days. And one day turned into 2, turned into 3. Not that I didn't struggle and break rules in treatment and, play pranks on the staff and call every apartment and say you have to give a UA. So there's 40 people lined up outside the tech office. And
you were one of those guys.
Well, I'm 18. I'm 18 in treatment.
Yeah.
I'm basically acting like a 12-year-old. But, I stayed there 9 months. And so when they talk about, the old days of South Florida recovery, and it was the best place to get sober, I had that experience.
Right.
Even all the way through sober living, people getting me jobs and helping me. And it just was.
And with less people, with less centers and less sober living, everybody was a little more accountable because everybody could see everybody.
I think at that point, there was like 5 sober homes in Delray.
Now, and I've been down here doing this in Florida. I've been sober a while, but I moved down here about 12 years ago working in the industry. Mm-hmm. In 12 years, every day somebody's giving me either the name of a new IOP or a sober living or something. Never heard of them, never heard of the people who are running. They're popping up, and then they close down, and the people that you go to and you think they're going to be there tomorrow, they're no longer there, and it's still kind of messy.
Yes.
It's kind of messy. That's why when you find good places, you really got to stay with them.
Absolutely.
Now, Karen and I both, we've worked with Advanced Recovery for a little bit. We're both proponents of that. We've got a pretty good handful of places that are very, very good and legitimate. You're not the only ones. There's some really good places.
Absolutely.
But everybody's got something a little bit different. They fit a different niche. Advanced recovery is not going to be good for everybody.
Absolutely not.
And no place is. Any place that tells you they can do everybody and they can handle everything, don't go there.
Right.
Because if you say you can do everything well, it means you do nothing well.
Right.
So with all these changes and everything, you stayed down here. What made you want to work in this in this industry, though?
Honestly, so I mean, all my family, my uncles, they're all handymen. They owned an electrician business, worked on cars, body men. So I wound up working at a golf course. Someone in recovery got me a job there. He worked there. I worked my way up to assistant superintendent of maintenance. I mean, it was a great job. I got my license back after 2 years. I had a car. I had a son on the way. I was sober about 5 years, and one of my therapists from Renaissance called me one day and said, Robert Johnson said, "Hey, why don't you come talk to us and think about working here?" I said, "Robert, why would I do that? You guys yelled at me for 9 months." Right? He laughed because you could joke around. But he said, no, he said, "Listen, I was 19 when I got sober." He goes, "You're active in the community. You're really helping people. We want to, have people that went through here to be called was, not just a behavioral health tech, but a resource person that you help the younger people coming in."
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was a great idea, but I said, "Look, I don't know anything about working in treatment. I was a horrible patient. What am I going to be like as an employee?" But I went to my sponsor, and he said, you know what his response was? He said, "You didn't have anything to do with it, and I believe that's how God works. I would probably take the job." And that's all there was to it. Plus, they offered me more money than I was making, so that helped too. But
Obviously,
that was second. And so I took a risk, and I went to work there to the place that got me sober, which I still believe they're the one of the best programs around. And I got good training and learned how to do things the right way, and their reputation still precedes them. So I started off on the right foot, I feel like.
Excellent.
So just even doing intakes and working as a tech and being in that environment of.
Now that was at the Karen or the.
They still were
Renaissance.
Just Renaissance. Actually, when I worked there, that was like 2000. During my tenure there is when they did merge with Karen.
Oh, okay.
So that happened while I was working there, and it was a great experience. It was a great experience.
So you stay there for a while. Now, how many other places did you work?
About 4 years. Then I went to a program that's no longer open. It was called the Advanced Recovery Center.
Right.
And I worked there for a period of time, about 3 years, and then left there just because of things with my son's schedule, nothing, crazy.
Yeah.
And actually went back to work at a country club because of my schedule with my son.
Yeah.
I needed. And then that was a good experience because there I became director of admissions because the admissions director got ill, had to go on medical leave. The owner said, you're the new admissions person. I said,
baptism by fire, huh?
I said, okay, what do I do? She said, well, you see that we still had paper sheets.
Yeah.
And that was when like the internet first started. But we were doing, I'd get a call from Atlantic Shores. I'd have to drive to Atlantic Shores, go into the unit, do the assessment. The next morning, bring it back to the clinical team. This is what they answered. This is what they said. What do you really think about the patient? So I really got like hands-on, not like today where you call in the call center. There's a sheet. They ask you the questions.
It's all on me. Yeah.
I remember my first assessment in Atlantic Shores. It was very interesting. No shoelaces, all that kind of stuff. So I feel like all those experiences really helped me decide, where I would want to work, what I would look for,
Now, apparently you found that with Advanced Recovery because you've been there 8 years, which is now your longest.
Yep. I actually, after I left the country club that I was working at, that was when Palm Partners opened. I worked for them before I think they had 4 patients.
Oh, okay. Because I worked with them when they bought out G&G.
Yep. So I was that because one of the therapists from Renaissance was building the clinical team.
Yeah.
Had moved over there, called me up, said, "You need to come help build the techs, all the scheduling, the room checks, the admissions." And so as part of that process, which was a good experience. And then from there, I actually left to a good friend of mine wanted to start a program. We didn't know what we were doing. He just wanted to help people. And I went to go work and help start Delray Recovery Center. and that was another great experience. And in that process, I just felt like that's when I was feeling the pressure of the community and like how bad things were getting. We'd send patient to detox, they go somewhere else. You find out they got brokered. We literally would have vans show up in our parking lot from other centers, pick them up in our parking lot, and they're gone. And I got families,
people wouldn't believe what went on.
No, I mean,
this is like Hatfield and McCoy's out there,
right? We had one other facility that I'm not a technology person. I can do my Facebook, I can get on a computer, but like they hacked our site and were stealing all of our calls. And that was an interesting situation. But all these things were happening, and I was kind of getting really burnt on like how long can I really do this? And, this is not really what I signed up for. I'm dealing more with damage control of the community and like all this other outside influence of this negative stuff happening,
right,
where we're trying to doing the right thing, not trying, we're doing it. And, it's not working out because we have all this other stuff. I mean, I got sober right in Delray. I watched every restaurant open, Starbucks. I watched all the kids there, just taking kids from Starbucks and chasing them with their suitcases and picking them up and bringing them here. Like literally watched it. I stopped hanging out in Delray Beach just because I didn't want to see it, didn't want to be a part of it, didn't want to be near it.
Yeah.
Which was sad for me because like me and Dave Diorio, when Starbucks opened, he had to drink 4 quadruple espressos a day. So that's where we hung out and smoked Lucky Strikes and drank espresso. And, we got really spiritual on caffeine and nicotine back then.
Absolutely. I still got my caffeine going there.
Yeah.
So a lot has changed.
Yeah.
And it's a lot better than it was when this all started going down. We had the Chapmans and we had the different things going on, and some horrific stories. I mean, we're talking about people prostituting clients, certainly selling them and brokering, paying clients to relapse and put them in different treatment centers.
When things started, when I would hear stories, I just because wasn't my experience in treatment.
Right.
When I would hear these things, I'd be like, "Wait, is this really real?"
Yeah.
Because it was like so far out there, and then I was like, "But no, this stuff is really happening."
People have no idea. Yeah. I mean, it's just ridiculous. But we're not. Now we've gotten better. Yes. They crack down. They crack down on people, scamming the insurance companies with UAs. They crack down on a lot of different things. But there's still a ways to go, isn't there? I mean, we still need a little more uniformity in things, don't we?
I agree.
Especially when it comes to sober livings and things like that. Those are scary propositions. I know FAR is one of them. And if you're looking for a place, Joe, let me tell you something funny.
Okay.
A family wants to go buy a car. They'll spend weeks, months researching what kind of car they want to buy. They want to put their son or daughter in treatment, and they'll look at one ad on one Facebook page, and they'll put them there. No research at all.
Right.
That's one of the reasons things got out of hand. People trusted everybody without looking. They should go look. I mean, they got pictures of beautiful treatment centers on the beach. Turns out the treatment centers in Arizona, there's no freaking beach.
Right.
But they got people water skiing on their websites.
Right.
I mean, come on. People need to really pay attention, don't they?
Absolutely.
Go visit these places, talk to them. Do you guys invite people to tour and to do those kind of things?
I mean, we typically would be, pre-COVID.
I get it with the COVID.
COVID's
now, a different animal.
I haven't actually even been in our own facility since March of 2020.
Wow. Just because of the COVID.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we do everything virtual, most of my meetings now are virtual. I mean, things were wide open. So we're also part of Baptist Health in South Florida. So I cover our Baptist Health hospitals in Palm Beach County and Broward and urgent cares. So I'm working with those places daily, and we were going back in and having meetings and visiting patients. But then this next wave came through, so that's kind of been on halt again. So, but we've learned the good thing is we've learned how to pivot to where we know, depending on what's going on there, uh, I can be at home. I can talk to people. I can help them. I can do that. We know how to do that now. We know it works. And then if it's open to where I can be in person, then I go and be in person.
Well, that's good to know too, though, that
Yeah.
Advance is taking the COVID crisis seriously.
Absolutely.
So they have a lot of protocols in place.
We
You don't have to worry about going in.
We are very, very strict on all of our protocols for COVID. We test every single patient when they show up at the door. Before they come in and get admitted, they have to do a test, even if they're coming from another facility. If they're coming from a hospital, we test them just to be 100%
safe.
You have to.
Just to be safe.
Yeah.
No, that's good. That's good. So with all the changes you've seen going on, are there things that you think that could still be better down here or anywhere as far as how we treat, or more importantly, how in public and in the world we're dealing with addiction? Do you think things could be better?
Oh, 100%.
What kind of things do you think we're missing the mark on?
Well, the one thing that we're definitely missing the mark on is, the access for people that don't have the ability to actually get into treatment.
Yeah.
And I think that that's our biggest, failure. And when I say that, I don't mean the treatment industry. I mean a failure as a whole in society.
Right, exactly.
Because listen, you can go right to Hampshire. You can look up the numbers. We know what they are. We know fentanyl's killing people. We know all these things. But it seems like every time we get movement, and you've been to some of those meetings, the coalition meetings, these things, the federal government's going to send money for this. Oh, the state's going to, but it never seems to wind up where it needs to go, which is to get people help.
Yeah.
It winds up in a pilot program here, and I think we have plenty of office furniture and offices around. You know what I mean? Let's actually,
exactly what you mean.
And I think that's really one of the biggest things I'd like to see, because it would make my job easier to help. Those calls that I get. Those are the most difficult calls. I think anyone that's passionate about what they're doing and do what I do, as in outreach, is we want to help everybody. But when you get that call from whoever it is, a doctor, a family, a case manager, well, they have no insurance and they have nothing. Well, we all have the same three options. And hopefully that person is willing enough to wait the 2-3 weeks that it's going to take them to get into that.
Yeah. I mean, down here we got bark, we got different things.
Right,
there's a handful.
Right.
Anywhere you go, you've
Right.
got limited options.
Right.
There's a couple. And there's not one of them where it's like you can guarantee they're going to get a bed in a timely manner at all.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's weeks, sometimes it's even months.
Absolutely.
But it's certainly not going to be, and although some of those programs are strong programs, I've seen people come out of some of those things sober and doing great, and they really, the bells and whistles are good, but that's not what makes the program. So it's not putting them down, but the accessibility, that's important. And one of the things, it's almost funny because when you have addiction and alcoholism, what it does is it strips away everything you have.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we're certainly willing participants in giving everything we own over to our addiction. We just basically, the addiction didn't steal it. We willingly gave it to the addiction. We said, here's our family, here's our money, here's our jobs. We turned it all over. I get that. We have a responsibility. I get that. But at the end of the day, the addiction is all about stripping you of everything so that when you are at your worst, you really have nothing. And then yet we're treating people who have nothing like they should have something. What do you mean you don't have money to pay for rehab? What do you mean you don't have insurance? This is what it's about. This is like going into a bank and they're saying, I need a loan. Well, do you have any assets? If I had assets, I wouldn't need the loan.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we're only going to give loans to people who actually don't need the loans. And that's kind of what goes on in our world. It's a backwards kind of view of things. So I agree that's got to change. What about the stigma? Do you think the stigma is a little bit different now? I mean, certainly 26 years ago or 40 years ago when I first got sober, I mean,
forget it.
There was a stigma about addiction and everything.
Oh, yeah. I was the drug addict on the street.
That at least
even my own family. I mean, I grew up in a very religious. Like I went to private Christian school. We had church in my grandmother's basement. Like, so for me to, be the black sheep of the family and they're doing what?
Yeah.
Like my dad looked at my Marlboros once and said, "This isn't marijuana, is it?" Like they didn't come from that world.
Yeah.
So I really like gave them an education,
but it's different now.
Yeah. I think there's more conversation about it, but I don't think we still have a long way to go.
I think now, although it's a little more accepted, for somebody to say, yeah, I used to have a drug problem and I got better, and people are kind of, oh, okay, that's cool. They're fine with it. I mean, you can't get a good Hollywood role unless you've gone through at least 2 rehabs, right? I mean, it's
on that end,
I
think people are more open. I think, on the other end, though, the public that don't have or maybe working in healthcare, I still think there's still, some stigma and things about, oh, they're never going to get better. Oh, here he is again.
You're probably always going to have some of that.
Of course.
I wish that the hand in hand, they would look at things like addiction and mental health, which are so closely related. And I would assume people would know that by now, but maybe they don't. And look at it with the same thing. It's like mental health is almost like being treated worse than addiction at this point. And it should not be. There should not be shame about those things. I mean, listen, I'm not saying that anybody gets a free pass for what they did. I mean, you pay your price, but I just wish there was not that the people were more open to talk about it just in a natural way.
Absolutely. And that's our biggest strength for me. Sometimes when I do presentations, like I did one to a pastoral care department for a hospital system. And I just was honest with them. I said, look, this is why I do this. This is how I got here. And they were so quiet. I was worried. I was like, oh man. And then at the end, one guy said, actually, I got sober in Akron, Ohio, sober 30 years, and then they all were like, the fact that you have the experience and you shared what you did and then tied it into what we're doing in the center and how that all connects. It was amazing. We're grateful to have that.
Excellent. See, those are great moments.
Yeah.
Aren't they?
And I was like, wow. And even though I've been doing this for such a long time, every day's a new day to me. I still sometimes am like, man, I don't know. Should I really tell them? Should I not? And then I do. And then God reminds me, like, look, this is why you're here.
I also noticed you spend a lot of time at different events that are especially meant to raise awareness and do things like that. Is this like, it's a job for you, but it's also very personal. How big a part of your recovery is in your work?
I mean, I think it's so intertwined. I mean, it helps me be good.
It's not dependent. I understand.
My recovery is, the one thing that I monitored, not monitored, but I think I saw probably like around between 5 and 10 years sober. There was some people in AA that were the guys that were the old timers then.
Yeah.
And they weren't treatment people, but they became like the guru almost. And a couple of them relapsed. And I was like, why did they relapse? Because that scared me.
Yeah.
I was like, what's going to happen when I get 16 years? What's going to happen when I get, is that going to be me? And thank God Dave instilled in me, I'm sober by the grace of God. Bottom line, there's a spiritual solution. I believe that still today. It doesn't matter what I do for work. You know what I mean? I have to be a sober person and I have to practice principles in my life for anything to be successful.
Right.
That's the bottom line. But obviously God put me into that role. I took that job. I worked my way up or around and sideways and backwards. I've done a lot of different things in capacity of working in this field, but it all stems from that. And for me, I said, you know what? I don't want to be that guy. I just want to be the guy that shows up every day.
Right. Exactly.
And then we'll take it from there. And I really keep it that simple.
No, I was one of those guys, 13 years, and I relapsed.
Okay.
And I went on a relapse. It was a 10-year run.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a long time.
Yeah.
One of the things that was a problem for me was my inside and my outside were not congruent. My inside was sober. My outside was doing just all sorts of stuff, whatever. And I really wasn't doing anything that fulfilled me on that level that I wanted to be at. And I'm not saying everybody who's in recovery needs work and treatment. I don't think we need that.
Right.
We don't.
No.
But you need to feel good about what you do. You need to make sure that fulfills you in a healthy way. You can't go do negative things for work and then expect your recovery to be okay. It's going to affect you. So that's what I was saying is like, so that guides you in what you do, and it guides me now. You know, I spent years doing TV and radio, and I was enjoying myself, and I was doing well, but it didn't fulfill me the way this does. Working with people, working in recovery,
it does, yeah.
Raising awareness in the country, in traveling and speaking, and it really it fulfills me. It fulfills what I feel like is a mission that I have, which is, you know, nobody should ever die from this disease without being recognized. What was I told? I was told years ago, you got two choices. You either carry the message or you are the message.
Right.
So the people we've lost, that's our message, and I've got to make sure I carry that. But but that's I guess that's what I was getting at is your recovery. Does it guide you in your decision making every day, and even in your work stuff?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's got to, right?
Of course. And, you know, even one thing that I don't know where I really realized this along the way. I don't know if it just becomes a part of what you do, if you're just doing the deal. Because I have a lot of friends outside of recovery. You know, I have a lot of people that I've met in 26 years.
Sure.
So the thing that really, it's not just
normies.
Yeah, normies. I don't know if they're normies, but yeah.
Yeah, that's a broad spectrum.
As you know, I play with horses a lot, and there's no one normal in the horse world. That's for sure. But that, you know, to be able to help anybody, wherever you are.
Yeah.
Wherever you are. And I think about, you know, especially in my family, I think about my Aunt Joanne a lot. That, you know, she died of cancer about 20 years ago. But Aunt Joanne, she would take this guy in her house, that guy in her house, this woman in her house. This one was an alcoholic. She was an alcoholic. That's just what she did. She just took people in. And when I look back in my whole journey, because when I got to AA, I didn't want to have anything to do with spirituality. I was like, nope, don't talk about God. I'm not going there. I'll do this, and that, but we're not doing that. Eventually, I wound up to that. And it opens back up the door.
Yeah.
You know, the big book talks about it's almost easier when someone comes into the program that never had any experience with spirituality or religion to get it than someone who did. And that was my experience, because I was like, oh no. I've been down this road. I know what this is about. How did I wind up here? Well, now I know I did that. I made those choices. So when I really did come back around, I think all that stuff I learned as a kid was so ingrained in me that just over time, it don't matter to me. My job, when I wake up, I have the ability just to go help people, whether it's with addiction, whether it's with this, whether it's with that. Who knows? Maybe sometimes just holding a door for somebody.
Just being a decent human being.
Absolutely.
Kind, caring, and considerate.
Yeah.
I mean,
and when I can live my days that way, they're better days.
Absolutely.
No, I'm not perfect.
Absolutely. That's why you can't go back to Jersey, because that's not the attitude of Jersey.
Oh, no.
Actually, you know, everybody gives Jersey a bad knock, but you grew up there.
I do.
I spent 20 years in Jersey. I'm from Syracuse, New York, but I spent 20 years South Jersey, not your Jersey.
Not the good part
Eagles
of Jersey.
fans.
Oh,
you're Giants fans, I'm sure, right?
Of course.
Yeah, and I'm so sorry about that, because you've taken a beating the last few years. And it's not looking any better right now. I'm sorry. I really wish I could say, hey, that new quarterback is looking no.
We got nothing to look forward to right now.
You really don't. I'm sorry.
And it's a shame, because my grandmother's 88. She deserves one more good season.
She hasn't had one since the helmet catch. I mean, that's it.
Yeah.
But I mean, they've been competitive a few times.
The only thing I'm so happy about in the last 2 weeks is that Dallas lost.
Yeah.
I got to focus on the positive.
Well, that's the one thing the Eagles fans and Giants fan agree on, is that we love anybody who beats Dallas.
Yes.
But we had a rivalry. We had a hell of a rivalry with Eagles and Giants.
I don't want to relive those moments.
Yeah, there was
down by 4 touchdowns, come back. What was that? 6 years ago, 7 years ago? Remember that one?
Oh yeah.
Was it Sproles came back and
it was the kick to Deshaun.
Yeah.
Oh
what
yeah,
a game!
it was.
Yeah, I believe we didn't make the playoffs because of that game.
You're still hurting. I can tell.
I
You got a little
listen.
tear coming up
I
there.
do. Listen, yeah, I have trauma in my life.
Well, I come down here and I'm like, well, you know what? I'm just gonna go with the Dolphins. Just gonna go with the Dolphins, because they're right around the corner from where I live, and so
Right.
it's like it's great. And then they fire the best head coach they've had in years because he didn't get along with the GM. I don't care. He was winning.
Right.
He was turning our team. Oh, never mind. We could go football all day. That could be a whole different
the Giants
show
right now. So
that'd be a whole different show. But but you can enjoy things like that.
Absolutely.
Now. I remember years during my 10-year 10-year break there, where I would throw parties for Eagles parties at my house, and I can't remember ever seeing a game.
Wow.
Because I would be trashed before the game would start, and I'd be passed out by the time it was over. And I'd always have to watch the game during the week and catch up and figure out what I missed.
What happened?
So not even a fan. I couldn't even be a good fan. Now I try to be a good person. I meet people like you, and it always makes me happy. Joe, I'm glad you came in to chat. Hopefully we can do this again.
We can. I got plenty more to share and stories.
We got stories and, of course, events, because you and I are both always out there looking for events and looking for ways to let people know what's going on. Hopefully we can keep that going in 2022. Let's hope 2022 is going to be a better year as far as society as a whole and COVID and everything else.
I think so. I hope so.
I hope so too, man.
I think we're getting to that point where I think people are less fearful. We know what we need to do.
Yeah. I mean, the good news is even though Omicron could spread very easily, it's not as deadly as the first strain.
Mm-hmm.
So perhaps it is now becoming what's going to be an annual flu, like a regular flu. Hopefully that's where we're heading.
I'm not a doctor or physician.
No.
I just hope that we, hopefully we turn the corner.
Yeah, just remember out there, continue to pay attention to our elderly, people who are sick, because even if it's not as bad as the first strain, they could still get very, very ill and perhaps pass. So be very respectful, especially of people who are weak or elderly. That's my biggest concern. I'm not worried necessarily about the 18-year-old kid down the street, but I am worried about his grandmother who comes over to visit. So,
and that's all we can do is just, try to be safe and safe for everybody. And like the first 2 weeks of this month, after New Year's, I didn't do any outside meetings. So we
didn't know what was happening.
I went out to the
barn
barn
if it was getting worse or better.
Rode my horses out in nature where there was no Omicron, and just because they said, all right, well, let's just, we can make those adjustments now, which is the good thing.
Exactly. And we mentioned it, and we could definitely speak to advanced recovery systems that if you're concerned about going in to treatment because of COVID and everything else, you're going to be better protected inside a treatment center than you are out on the streets today. You're going to be protected better than you will be going to your local restaurants and everything else. They pay attention, and they're very, very stringent about this. Right. And if you do, for any reason, end up testing positive, they'll help take care of you. They'll figure it out. But it's not like you're going to be in a place where they're not testing people. They're so that's not a good excuse not to go to treatment, right?
It's not a good excuse. There's never a good excuse not to go to treatment.
Yeah. If you're struggling, and if someone you love is having a hard time, please, Joe, how can they get a hold of you if they want to call you directly?
I can give my number if it's okay.
Go ahead, give your number.
561-860-3305. You can call me, text me. I'll be happy to talk to anyone who needs help. And I've been visiting places for 20 years, so I'm just here to help people find the right place. Like you said, we're not always the right place. There's other outside things that sometimes dictate where someone can go, whether it be insurance or finances or location or
condition. I mean, if they're pregnant, some places
are
better.
We don't do that. So
if they're, if you're looking for a place for couples, they don't do that either. Right. But, it should not be couples doing treatment. I've never seen that be very successful. Have you? I've rarely seen it be successful.
I'm not a fan of it.
Not a fan.
I'm not a fan.
I'm encouraged that you both want to get help, but go to two separate places and get your own recovery, then come together and see what you learned. That's a good idea. Going to the same place together, it was about like maybe 5-6 years ago, a bunch of places opened up saying, well, we're going to take couples and
So
stuff. Boy, they didn't last long.
That's even like the places that opened during COVID said, oh, we have a COVID wing.
Yeah.
I don't, I mean,
I understand if you have the right building and you can do an
yes.
isolation unit,
Yeah.
like my friends up at neuropsychiatric and different places, they actually have buildings that are designed so you can have an isolation unit. But you can't do that in some buildings. You got to have the right building. You got to have the right system.
Listen,
you can't just say, I close our doors so they're isolated. That's not isolated.
I'm not opposed to it. Listen, our hospitals have COVID floors.
Of course.
Right? Okay.
Yeah.
So our hospitals are doing that. For all intent and purposes, if you're a detox res, you're a freestanding hospital, right?
That's true. Exactly.
So if you have like you said, if you're structured to where it's safe and okay, unfortunately, where we are in South Florida,
yeah,
your house that you're housing your patient I don't think that's I don't know. You know what I mean?
Here's the thing: one person does something and they do it the right way, then everybody else wants to jump on.
Right.
I remember when the word holistic used to mean something, and then everybody started using it. I remember when co-occurring was an actual something that people were, and then everybody started saying, "Well, we do co-occurring disorders," and there are people that didn't even understand what that was. They're still putting it out there. Mm-hmm. So you really just do your research, people.
Absolutely.
Call them. If you can't go in and visit, you can call them. You can talk to one of the therapists or one of the clinical people. You don't just have to talk to the person on the phone. You can, if you want to get some real direct answers, ask to talk to some of the staff members.
Well, and I think that's, I don't know if it's still out there. I remember once in the Palm Beach County Coalition meeting, we had created a list of questions that families, should ask. And I think now we have to update it and ask a facility. Well,
let's ask Micah where that is. I'm sure he's got that list.
What are your COVID protocols? For us, like in our pre-assessment phase, one of our things now is that we require that they have a rapid discharge plan, meaning there has to be what family member can we talk to that's committed that if, say, you do test positive or something happens to where you rapidly have to discharge, where can they go that's safe? What family member is going to be responsible for that? And we've actually had some cases that we have not been able to admit because we weren't able to really put a plan in place.
So you did not want to take the risk of if they got COVID, you would not have a place to put them. Absolutely. You didn't want to take that risk.
No. Absolutely.
Yeah. So they need to go to a place where it's either got a real significant isolation section, or figure something out. But I've seen people that,
listen, we've just learned.
Listen, you got COVID, you got to go. All right, where do I go? Well, that's your problem.
No, we want to know
that's not appropriate.
We want to know that plan
ahead of time. Excellent.
Absolutely.
That's very, very.
And
good.
then just like
you're not just getting dumped in the street.
No. But dealing with the population we deal with, then that person maybe sometimes comes up with their own plan. Yeah. So how those situations go. But
I know
I've done that myself, make my own discharge plan.
At the end of the day, there's still a great responsibility for success that lies on the client themselves.
Yeah.
And that's hard.
All we can do on our end is put those things in place. Sometimes we get criticized for being, a little too strict, but I like that we do that because it means that we're really thinking and caring about the big picture and
it's when you're dealing with larger populations, those kind of strict guidelines are very, very important. Mm-hmm. It's not like a small place where you're just dealing with 10 or 15 clients. You have to have these things so that you can keep moving forward in that the distraction of one does not affect all 49 other people there.
Of course.
But you can do that. Listen, again, Joe, we've gone way over our time. However, it's always good conversation.
Absolutely.
I enjoyed you coming in. We'll have to do this again soon.
Sure.
And we'll find out what else is going on in the area in South Florida. And of course, always continue to talk about the right places and good places and check out advanced recovery systems. They're in a couple of different states.
So, yes, we're in Florida, New Jersey, Ohio, Colorado, Washington State, all the way on the West Coast.
Oh, nice.
And pretty soon we will be in Georgia and Missouri.
And the IAFF is at Maryland.
And that's in Maryland.
That's in Maryland. So that's specific, and that's not just a place you go. You go there through the union and through their IAFF program, the firefighters. But it's good to know you do it.
Absolutely.
And if you have questions about it, you can ask. I mean, certainly they're proud of what they do there.
I mean, the good thing about me, just like AA, I have a great team that I work with.
Yeah.
And so if I don't know something, I have 20 team members. I can ask, do you have something appropriate for this or this? And, then we figure it out. So
excellent.
I have a very good team. I love the team I work with. We help each other. It helps us help people. I've worked a lot of other places where people are in competition with each other. Yeah. I have a group text with all my coworkers down here, and we're constantly every day, hey, can you help this person? Oh, I know this person. And we just work as a team. And I've never really had that.
Because it's about saving lives at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter whether you get it done or the person next to you does it, as long as it gets done. And I think that's what should be celebrated, not who brings in the most numbers.
I don't think there's a day where
you guys all work together.
My 3 closest team members here, in the South Florida region, there isn't a day that we don't text each other.
Right.
That with something of how to help somebody.
That's excellent.
Yeah. And
that's the way it should be. That's the way it should be. There's a lot of places out there where they're putting outreach marketers, phone people, they're pitting everybody against each other, and it's kind of like becoming this cutthroat Glenn Ross salesman kind of thing going on.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen that movie, check it out.
ABCs, right?
ABCs. Always be closing. All right, ladies and gentlemen, again, I want to thank our guest, Joe Fiorello, for joining us. Florida person by way of Edison, New Jersey. And it's good to have you down here. And it's good to see you doing the work that you do. And congratulations on your recovery and your just continued success, my friend.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right.
Same to you, too.
Good to see you. And thank you for joining us right here on the ATC Network on YouTube. Remember to subscribe to our channel so you can catch other shows that we have. You hit the bell and it'll remind you of when we have upcoming shows. But that's all we got for now. I want to thank everybody for joining us. I'm Scott Jones. We'll catch you next time.